Hi, thank you for worshiping with us on Sunday morning. Um, it's our prayer that God will continue to minister to you and to your family's needs. And thank you for supporting us in many ways. And I pray God's blessing on your families for the many more days to come. Being anxious and overcoming anxiety is a lifelong process. When we get over one anxious moment, something else happens in our lives, and we once again get anxious about it. Even though we've seen God's hand in the previous moment, when the next thing comes, we automatically become anxious about it. This is one thing that I found very interesting was the evil one has a field day when you and I are anxious about something because he wants us to make us less dependent on God and look at the anxious moments in our lives. And also the other side to it is we sometimes think that God is upset with us when we are anxious about it. That's not the truth. God, all of those the emotions that God has given you, whether it's anxiety or fear or joy, are all from God. But how do we harness it for the greater good is what God is looking to do in our lives. I also get anxious every Saturday night for a sermon that I have to preach on Sunday morning. And I've been preaching for about 25 years now, and I still get anxious. I get anxious about so many things, like the way you often get anxious too, when your presentation is big and you can't sleep that night. So I think anxiety and anxious moments are part of our lives. So let me offer this one thing to you. Ask your spouse, your God-given spouse, ask them to pray over you. And the next thing is offer your anxious moments little by little to God. And sometimes God comes speedily to our rescue. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a time, but just be there. Just this one thought that you needed to know, that God knows you, God watches over you, and in due time, and that's the key, and in due time, God will restore you. So in the meantime, I will keep praying for you, and I will commit you and your anxious moment into God's hands. Like the way Paul writes to the church in Philippians, he says, do not be anxious about anything, but in prayer and thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. And the God of peace, it's just not the peace of God, and the God of peace will be with you. And that's my prayer for you. Thank you. Until we meet again, may God be with you. Bye.